Oh man, I messed up, guys, and I wanted to be honest with you on what happened. And to be honest, this is unscripted. This is totally different. My social media manager slash editor doesn't even know that I'm recording this, and no one really does because they might tell me against it. But I always kind of hated how all social media people always act like everything's amazing. They talk about how good they are, how amazing they are, how they never get things wrong. And if they do talk about mistakes, they like bring it up, but they're like, yeah, but I still won. And to be honest, I lost, guys. Like this year, I lost. And I wanted to be honest about that with you guys. And you could do that, do with that what you want. You could unsubscribe, you could unfollow, you could choose not to listen to me. And I don't blame you, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't have everything figured out. But I want to make this video, one, to be honest, because otherwise I feel like a fraud making all my other videos, because it's not like I don't know anything. I know some things. But at the end of the day, this year was a bad year. And I want to talk about that in this video. So with that being said, you're probably wondering, like, what even happened? And not the end of the world, but my concrete company, this is going to be the first time where we've, like, lost money. Like, I'm talking, like, not just on paper when you take out depreciation, but you're like, oh, but you made some cash. Like, no, this year we lost money. And to be exact, I don't know yet because it's not the end of the year, but I'm kind of running projections. And I think that's why, that's why I'm making this video now. Is I knew things weren't going great this year, but I kind of had hope that we were going to turn things around. We've been making changes. And my projections, if I'm right, we're probably gonna end up losing about like 120-ish thousand dollars. That's like negative cash. That means we worked all year and we lost money. So in this video, I want to talk about why that happened. And sorry if you see me looking down, it's just because I took like literally like a half page of notes. And like I said, this is unscripted. I'm just going through, but I want to make sure that I kind of get all these points for you guys. So I'm talking about why this happened. And then I'm going to talk about some of the things that actually went right that I learned. And then I'm going to talk about what I'm going to do moving forward. Right. And that's why I want to share this with you guys, because if I could help you guys not lose money, that's ideal, right? Like me knowing what I know now, the odds that I'm going to lose money like this again are probably much lower because I understand business at a whole different level. And that's kind of why I love business, right? I mean, the goal of business, like we can't always win. We're going to have failures. And I know that. But, that's kind of why I've been saying a lot. Like the goal of business or the game of business is to stay in business. And it's to grow, is to push ourselves. And if we fail, as long as we don't go out of business, we've technically not lost, right? We haven't lost. So we've either succeeded or we've learned. Or if you quit, then you fail. So what happened? Okay, so like, why did this happen? In short, I had, as many of you know, I had a concrete company and I had a landscape company. I had two separate companies. But this year, I had a big idea to merge them. The main reason is I now had concrete company, landscape company, contractor CEO. And to be honest, it was too hard for me. It was way too hard. I was like, man, I'm not being efficient at anything because I have too much split focus. So I had the brilliant idea. Well, why don't I just sell my landscape company, my concrete company, and then I'm just gonna give that responsibility to my concrete team, and they could sell it, they could project manage. I'm like, at the end of the day, it's just landscaping. I mean, no offense, landscapers, but it's not like it's rocket science, right? We're talking sprinklers and sod and some freaking pavers. It's not crazy. But what ended up happening is I did that. I didn't put enough thought into it. I gave it to the team and it kind of flopped. And the thing is, I could have pushed through it, but I got so much pushback from my team. I kind of caved a little bit. Like they were pissed. And I don't necessarily blame them, but they're like, well, I don't want to do that. People get stuck in their ways. No one likes freaking change. If I really wanted to make it happen, then I could have freaking I could have made it happen. But it was like kind of one of those things where, man, and this sounds bad. I just don't know of another analogy. Okay, like I'm going to use a kid. And see, this still sounds bad, but it's the truth. If you have a kid and they're always going to be pushing back at you, they're going to say, okay, you got to go to bed. Why? Why do I got to go to bed? You got to go to freaking bed. Why? Like, why? I could stay up late. They're going to push back at you. And unless you push back at them and you stay strong, which takes energy, it takes effort, it's not easy, then your kid can get a little out of control, right? That's why a lot of parents who are honestly lazy parents, in my opinion, They just give their kid an iPad and they basically say, STFU, stop crying. Like, here's this random thing that's going to babysit you because I don't want to do it. So I kind of did that. I knew what was best for us because I gave it a lot of thought. And when the going got tough and when I got the pushback, I caved because I don't know. I just did. But anyways, I chose to shut down my landscape company. That's not the end all be all, though. That's not why this happened. The main reason that it happened is we were projecting to do $4 million a year of revenue with the landscape company. The concrete company, 3 million, landscape company, 1 million. Okay. So we had arranged our whole entire company to do that. I had the office staff, I had the equipment, I had everything. Everything was set up to do this, right? It's like, oh, here's the foundation and we're going to build this big old thing. Well, now I take $1 million of revenue away, basically just because I give up. But the thing is, I didn't make adjustments on the business side. As in, I didn't let go of staff. I didn't sell equipment. I just absorbed all of it into the concrete company. And then I was like, you know what we're going to do? Instead, we're just going to do more concrete. Because honestly, in the past, that's what I've been able to do. I went from like 0 to 700, 1.2, 1.6, 2.2, like 3. Like it was just, our trajectory was like this. Okay. We never had a problem just doing more concrete sales. But then the thing is, as many of you know, this has been a not so great year for home service, right? Like consumers aren't spending as much. There's inflation. Interest rates rose, meaning a lot of people can't do things like take out home equity lines of credit to pay off home projects, right? Spending got tight. And what happened is I made a big bet that we were going to be able to do this, and we didn't. To be honest with you, we not only didn't do this, but we actually went down a little bit. It is my first year ever having a decrease in sales. Okay. And then the main problem is, the crazy part is, there's a lot of things that we did right this year. Like, we're going to probably end up doing about 2.6 million in concrete sales. And actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for the end. I'm going to save what I learned and some of the good things for later. But let's first talk about, some other reasons why that happened. So that was kind of like the grand scheme of things, looking back in retrospect with 2020 vision. That's what happened. That's the story. And that's how we failed. But there's also some micro things that I failed at basically to cause this. Because at the end of the day, like, it does us no good. I'm not going to point at the economy. I'm not going to point at other people. At the end of the day, it's my fault. I made the bet. I made the decision. I put the seats in the seats at my own company, and I failed. Like, I messed up. I did. And here's some things that I looking back, this was a big problem. So number one is focus. Okay. So although I gained some focus by eliminating my landscape company, I lost focus on other things. And what I lost focus on is the main thing that we were concerned about this year is crew efficiency. Because we're like, man, we do so many sales. Why don't we make more money? And we're like, oh, I know. It's because the crew's not efficient. And to be fair, we did do a lot of great stuff with the crew this year. And actually, our gross profit went up. It went from like 40% to 46%. And meaning, so now every single dollar that I sell, I keep 6% more for my crew. And we did that through a bunch of other stuff. Like, I don't want this video to be like an hour long or like 2-3 hours long, but that's going to be for future videos, right? I'll talk about what I did right. But I was focused on just that. I was focused on the gross profit. And so to me, I lost focus on the sales. Like, I overemphasized what I thought the big problem was, and I stopped focusing on the sales. And not that the sales didn't matter. It was just like, it wasn't urgent. Versus in the past, it was like, no, this is our main problem. This is where we're focusing on. And I didn't do that. Okay, so I lost focus. Also with focus, to be honest, I focus a lot on contractor CEO. I want to have an amazing company. And I want, if you guys ever hire me for marketing or coaching or anything, like, I want it to be good. Like, I don't like, man, I'm a freaking contractor myself. Like, I don't want to provide a bad service to other contractors because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to have a crap marketing company or a company who doesn't care about you. You're just a number. And so, to be honest, I put a lot of focus on contractor CEO, trying to make it better. And to be honest, that worked. But then my lack of focus in my concrete business cause us to mess up. And looking back, like I I shouldn't have done that. And there may have been a better way to do that. Next off is leadership. Because I basically wanted to focus on contractor CEO, I had a leader inside my business that was basically running my business on my behalf. And he's unbelievably intelligent, but he's overly analytical. And that's a huge problem with a small business. And I, looking back, like that was such a stupid mistake. Because what was the main benefit of me doing it? Honestly, I thought that there was something wrong with me, and you might even be feeling this way too. You ever feel like, because a lot of entrepreneurs or small business owners, we have ADD, right? We're like everywhere. We're like, oh my God, look at this opportunity. Look at this opportunity. Like we're going a million miles an hour. And in the past, I was like, man, something is wrong with me. I got to get someone in who's focused and who could just do stuff, and they're going to analyze. This is something I learned. That's not always great. Because the problem with analyzing everything is you move slow. You're a nitpicker. You worry about every little thing, right? And that the person that I put in charge, that's his personality. And when I first looked at that, I thought that was good. I'm like, that's what we need. We need a hard ass who is worried about every little detail, and we're going to do this. But then the problem is we move slow. We weren't adaptable. We were basically like the US government, right? Just getting left in the dust. We're some bureaucracy. Like, man, that works for big companies, but I don't think that that's really the best route to go for small businesses, especially when things aren't going according to plan. And to be honest, I've left the keys to someone, not that I should have, because I don't think he's a bad person, but I should have been way more involved. Way more involved. So looking back, I have to learn how to be a better leader, a better manager, and how to pass the reins off better. I wanted the concrete business to be passive, and it's just not ready yet. Like, it's not ready yet, you know? So it is what it is. Two more things. Culture. Because of that, because I left the keys to someone else's hands, I never understood this, but when they say that things flow from the top down, like imagine like a big pyramid, at the top, they set the culture here, and that culture flows down to the rest of the business. And so because I left someone at the top and I didn't tell him exactly how I wanted him to act, he was negative, because he's kind of like, how a lot of smart people, they're realists, but really they're like kind of negative. They're down in the dumps all the time. Well, that's culture spread through the whole organization. And it's almost like I woke up one day and I'm like, oh my God, why do I hate everyone now? I'm like, what the hell happened? And looking back, right? Because it's not like this stuff just happened overnight. It takes time. But that nervous energy, that analytical energy, it spread. And then everyone was just nervous all the time. They were frantic. They didn't want to make a mistake. And like they were critical of others. And they thought that's the way that we should do things, because that's honestly what we allowed at the top. Never doing that again. Never. Like, to be honest, I thought the whole culture thing and like mission and values, I thought that was a scam. I was like, that's so stupid. Who cares about that? Now I know, right? Now I know. Man, in freaking business, I mean, it's crazy how so many people tell you things are important, but until you fail and that's the reason why, it doesn't resonate. You're like, well, why? Like, it just sounds stupid, right? At least it does to me. If it doesn't to you, guess you're ahead of the ball game with that. But I wasn't. And then lastly, it was just overconfidence, right? I had too much confidence that we could just sell our way through anything. But in reality, right? It's like I thought it kind of reminds me of when I was back in high school and I used to take MMA. So I used to think that I could basically beat the crap out of anyone. Well, any regular person. I wasn't stupid. I didn't think I could get in the ring at UFC and destroy someone. But I was like, oh man, in my high school, like I could take anyone. Doesn't matter if they're twice as big as me or whatever. Until one day, someone came along and they beat the crap out of me. And then I was like, oh my God. And you have that wake up call and you're like, wow, I'm not as good as I thought. And so I had all this overconfidence, and I knew that we had these problems. I knew that we had too much office staff. I know that we had too much equipment, too much bills for my business that was the size that it was to sustain. But I was like, no, we're just going to grow past it. We're going to grow past the problems. I'm going to ignore the market. I'm going to ignore what things are telling me. And it was just dumb. Looking back, it was dumb. But here's some things that went right. Okay. So the good news is, I don't have to shut down my channel. I don't have to shut down my concrete company. At the end of the day, like business will live on, even though we lost a lot of money, like a lot of money. And one of the things that I did right in the past, and thank God, because it was very tempting not to, is I've always been a little stingy with my money outside of business. It's so funny because inside my business, I'm like frivolous. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to invest in this, invest in that. I'm buying this. I'm going to figure it out. Personal life, totally opposite. When I just got back from a trip from Spain, the wife, she wanted to travel first class. And I was like, yeah, I'll look at it. But the tickets that I got to Spain were like 500. First class tickets were like 8 grand. I'm like, I get there in the same amount of time. I'm never going to do that. And to be honest, I don't know how much money I'm going to have before I'm ever going to do, in my opinion, stupid things like that, right? I save money in my house. I still have a renter in my personal house that lives with my wife and I. A lot of people are like, that's so dumb. But I'm like, man, it's free money. It's free money. And small things, right? My wife loves Starbucks. But when we go, instead of us both ordering the same drink in a medium, I'm like, no, let's order a large and let's share it. A lot of you are gonna look at that and be like, dude, that's so stupid. But whatever. That's just the truth. It's me, right? It's me. But the benefit of that is I've saved a lot of freaking money. And when times were good in business, because like when I was telling you guys that I was making a lot of money in business, like last year, the year before, I was. And guess what? I didn't take that money and spend every dime of it because I'm not dumb. So that's one of the things that I did right, thank God, is I had a nest egg. So I can float through the bad times a little bit, right? I have to readjust. I'm going to have to sell some equipment. I'm going to have to let go of a staff probably. But the game of business goes on, right? We move on. Another benefit is because we focus on efficiency. Like I said, our gross profit went up. And that's what I learned, right? Where focus goes, energy flows, right? From Tony Robbins. But it's true. We focused on our crew being more efficient, reducing labor hours, increase how fast we could do things, decreasing material waste, and it paid off. So now, if I could just coincide both sides of the business, I have the sales side and the efficiency side. It's like, how much money can I bring in? And then from that, how much money can I keep? Well, man, I mean, we might be dangerous. We might be dangerous. And, I learned at the end of the day, business is all about growing. And if you're like, here's the thing, a lot of you guys, like what I don't want to happen from this video is you're going to watch this video and then you're like, well, I never want to invest again, or I'm not going to do anything. Like, I'm going to like be a little hermit and I'm going to like sit inside my shell and I'm not like, the world's a dangerous place and I'm going to, no, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. That's not what I want to have happen. Because the thing is, we all have to get uncomfortable because that's how we grow. But the key is, right? We have to make it like there's a balance. There's like the ultimate risk where we're going to grow super fast and we might like absolutely kill it. Like that's like betting your life savings on Dogecoin or something stupid, right? Who knows? You could become filthy rich. But then if you do that, right, then you might lose all your money. But then you also don't want to be on the other end of the spectrum where you're just a hoarder and you freaking live in a dirt hut and you don't hire people and then you have a super small business that will always basically be a glorified job because you refuse to grow. So there's a middle ground, right? And this year humbled me where I was way too far on the end of one spectrum and I'm a little humbled, right? So moving forward, I wrote down I'm going to undergrow. So what does that mean? Before in the past, and as an entrepreneur, when you're leaving money on the table, like there's too many leads to service, what do we have a tendency to do? Oh my God, I have to increase capacity so I can sell more jobs. So the thing is, maybe you might want to do that, but also, in my opinion, what's a lot safer is you should always leave a little demand on the table, meaning that there's just going to be some business that comes to you and you have to say no. It doesn't mean that you want a ton. Again, balance, right? You don't want to like go too all in, try to capture every little penny because then you might overgrow if things ever or decline if things ever dip. But you also don't want to you don't want to go the other way either. So I'm going to undergrow, and what I really mean by that is just one step at a time, and I'm going to have to contain because at the end of the day, I'm still an optimist. I still think things are going to work out, but I have to take maybe slightly smaller steps. And honestly, you're going to leave some money on the table if you do that, but then you're going to be protected from the downside. So there's that. I'm going to do the 20% of things that bring 80% of the results. One of the things that I learned, the crazy part with all this is I asked my suppliers if we were still one of the biggest companies in our area, and they said yes. And that is when things really hit me that like we are trying, like the way that I imagine this is like, you know how when you first start out in like a fairly fast car and then from like 2000 RPMs to 4000 RPMs, you accelerate really fast. You're like, oh my God, you know, like you're going quick. But then all of a sudden you hit 8000 RPMs and it's like you're still throttling it as hard as you can, but you're like, oh wow, I'm barely moving, right? I'm not moving that fast. Business is kind of the same way. There's almost like a happy middle ground where your business is going to be efficient and you're going to do the things that make you money, but you're going to not push it too hard in the sense that it just becomes inefficient. Every marketing dollar you spend becomes a little bit less than efficient. Um, like your team becomes less efficient. Like I'm going to figure out the things that will provide the highest return on investment and highest return on attention, right? We don't have to do everything. We just have to do the main things that bring the most money, and we got to move fast and be flexible. Okay? Next, paying off debt. I took on way too much debt with equipment and all that. And to be honest, like I've still paid my way and I have all my equipment, but so it's not that I'm never going to take out debt on equipment. I'm just going to have to combine paying off debt and undergrowing, where when I get some money, I don't have to throw every little dollar into the business. I'm going to take some of that, keep some of it for myself. The rest, I'm going to pay off some debt, right? That's called undergrowing. Like you're not just going to invest every little dollar, right? And lastly, and this is probably the thing that I'm the least excited for, is I have to learn how to be a manager. To be honest, I've kept delegating that. Every time that it comes to managing people, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to have hard conversations with people. I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to do this. And so I kind of handed it off. And I'm like, oh, I'll just like this person can do that. But I have to learn how to be a good leader and a good manager. And to be honest, right now, I don't really consider myself a great manager. I'm great with marketing, decent with sales. I know numbers relatively well, but like as far as the management and getting other people to do what I want them to do, I would not say that I'm not great at that. So, and I have to learn that. You know, I keep hearing Alex Ramosi talk about this, but it's true. It's like when we reach a certain point in business, we have a tendency just to want to like ignore it. Like if you're a video gamer and you get to a certain level and you can't beat that freaking level and it gets frustrating and you just want to stop playing the game. But the thing is, even if you go start another business, you do a side hustle, you do something else, that boss will come up to you again and you're never ever going to grow past it until you just conquer the boss. And my boss that I have to conquer is learning how to be a manager, even if it hurts and makes me want to puke and I hate it. I hate every second of it. I have to do it. And so the good news, guys, I learned a lot. I'm going to be a better, better for you guys. Um, I understand, and this is why, by the way, speaking of which, don't listen to everything I say. Don't listen to everything other people say. By the way, a lot of you guys that want coaching, this is why I say, people are like, what would you do? I'm like, dude, I don't have enough context to even begin giving you an educated answer. Because the thing is, it depends. Is the problem your sales? Is the problem your efficiency? Is the problem how expensive your business is? Are you not delegating enough? Are you delegating too much? There's so many things. Business is like the most complicated recipe you could ever think of. Think about, to make a great steak, it's pretty simple. You need steak, salt, pepper, garlic. And if you put freaking like teriyaki sauce in that, then like something's wrong with you. But you get what I mean. It's pretty simple. But imagine if you made a steak and then you didn't have the salt on there and you're like, man, my steak kind of sucks. Business is the same way. If you're great at marketing, you're great at sales, but you suck at management, you suck at being a leader, your business is going to stink. And so it's a freaking all big recipe and everything has to come together to form this amazing result. And if one of the ingredients is off, doesn't mean you're going to fail, but be careful because that might come back to bite you in the butt. So I hope this video is helpful. I'm sorry it's not edited. I honestly have no idea how this video is going to do. Part of me hopes that no one watches this video because it's not very fun to come on here and say, I messed up, right? Like I didn't do good. But let me know in the comments if this is appreciated, if you guys like it. Send me the flipping off emoji if you're like, dude, I'm never gonna listen to you again. I'm just gonna don't do that, please. But yeah, I just want to be honest. I hope it helps.